Our tributes continue to pour in for poet and anti-apartheid activist Mattera. He passed away yesterday at the age of 87. Mattera was recently honoured with the 2022 Artfluence Human Rights Award for his contribution to human rights activism and community development. Now, he will be remembered for his poetry, which ranges from political tributes to love songs. Mattera was buried just last night, according to Muslim rites in Lenasia. But joining us now to pay tribute to this great man is historian Professor Pitika Ntuli. Prof, thank you so much for your time, and good to have you this morning. Now, how will you remember Ndade Don Mattera? I mean, as someone who's contributed immensely in the arts, what's your memory of him?
My memory of him is that he's a very compassionate man, a very committed person who really loved his people, loved his land, but especially loved his children. Despite whatever apartheid system had done, you remember that he was house arrested for 8 years, that he could not even write his articles or even publish his poems. But when he came even out of that, he was extremely very defiant. I remember one of the first poems that he wrote. I'll quote the stanza after they lifted his house arrest. He asked himself a question: where was I that I might emerge from the burning furnace of my spirit, to call on an aggrieved people towards a rebirth and insurrection against these nocturnal beasts who guard our dreams and command our poems to kneel before their guns. Very formidable, very politically committed, a true Africanist, that he always insists that he was born to serve, to suffer, and to sacrifice. And you can just imagine if that was actually happening, when everybody was doing that, we wouldn't be talking about corruption, we wouldn't be talking about greed. So he was that type of a person.
Yeah. Prof, how important was his political activism, and what do you think was the messages that he was constantly trying to say to Africa, to Africans, about, I suppose, some of the atrocities that we're seeing, not only in our country, but also within our continent?
He was. You remember, he started as a part of a Labour party. Then he was in Black Consciousness, and then he joined the PAC. Then in the end, he combined all of these things into one kind of a package of his commitment for his people and for his country.
And with that being said, I mean, do you think that he lived to see, the fruits of his work in terms of getting that message across? Was he happy with where we are in the country? Do you think, did he still have, concerns that he was lamenting through his work, perhaps even with conversations that you might have had with him?
I mean, definitely, no one seems to be very happy about the state of affairs in our country today. Credo Muta was one of them. All the giants, people are neglected while they are alive, and immediately they die, they become heroes. But he was very, very, very kind of disappointed that things have turned out the way in which they are, that we've turned our backs on all the gains that initially we have made. We have changed policies. We have changed from RTP to GEAR. We abandoned the idea of wanting to nationalize the banks, nationalize education, and all of those things. We turned our backs. So he was very, very frustrated. Yeah. That's why his focus mostly, on children. He always just hoped that those children that are going to come after, maybe they may be able to do something. And you must also remember, so many of the journalists that are interviewing us actually today, many of them passed through his hands, and many of them were discovered by him and set upon a path of journalism. So he was just one of those very generous people. I remember when I was in exile in London, he arrived, there wearing a thick coat. He was from Sweden.
Right.
And before he left, he left that jacket and said, just keep warm until you get free. He was generous in every respect, humorous.
And I appreciate you also sharing with us some of your memories of the late Ndate Don Mattera. Thank you so much. Historian Professor Pitika Ntuli just sharing with us, reflecting on the legacy of the now late but great Ndate Don Mattera.